They'll call it the Littleton decision.
Right.
Just the Littleton decision doesn't.
I just envision myself walking away to the
Okay. Well, now that you're here, apologize, folks. We had a very meaty discussion in executive session. We're going to take one vote relative to that, and then we're going to resume at our regularly scheduled agenda. Although we can throw those times out the window, I guess. All right. So we have to make one motion here relative to giving council some authority. And does someone want to make that motion?
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Master Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, subsection... just kidding. Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to authorize the town administrator to execute a letter agreement with Sanctuary Medicinals relative to compliance with MGL Chapter 94G, Section 3D, subject to approval as to form by town council.
Second.
Okay, then the motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? We don't have to do this by roll call, do we, Keith? No. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Okay. Back to our schedule. We are going to try to move through this quickly to compensate for some of the time that's lost. Organization, here we go, we're already organized. Pledge of Allegiance, we'll lead off with that. So I'll ask Madam Clerk to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good, thank you. Keith, how about our mail?
Sure. And the first thing that I wanted to do, and I know the chiefs are
Back right.
here. There's one chief.
He just looked.
Okay. We did want to give a quick update on what the situation was with the accident at the commuter rail station, and for the sake of time, I'm not going to run this video, but please know that at the town's website, you will see what's going to happen with for the. Do you want to walk us through what the arrangement is, or Chief Bernard?
The update for so far for today is it was going to be a stop and protect order for that crossing. It is in place at this point in time. However, it's probably going to be lifted around 7 o'clock tonight, if they can get it finished by tonight. If not, it'll be lifted mid-morning tomorrow morning.
Okay, and at which point the gate will be operational again.
3 out of the 4 are working properly now.
Okay,
So stop and protect means that the locomotive stops,
Conductor gets
out.
waves the train through. It's on Twitter.
Blows a few horns, it's a little loud,
blue flag action,
little
Right.
flag
semaphore.
action.
And they're off.
Right.
We've got a video at the town's YouTube page and at the
Yes.
town website, and hats off to the work that the police and fire departments in Littleton did today. Great response. The transit police, the state police, the conductor, the Keolis crew, that everyone showed a great degree of professionalism and caring for the passengers. No injuries, but we don't want to have to go through that again.
Exactly.
So thank you all. Quickly in the mail packet, we have an update from the Conservation Commission about invasive species control. This is being done on the Newtown Road tax title property. We're in touch with the abutters about that work so that we can either arrange to have it done before the property transfers to the abutters, or to have them do it later this summer. Working on that. In your packet is a copy of a request from Kibble Farms on the Common to the Zoning Board of Appeals to extend their 40B comprehensive permit for, I think, an additional 6 months. That request would come before the CBA in the near future. There's some guidance documents about the Housing Choice Capital Grant Program. We're eligible to apply for $250,000. That'll come later this summer. I included an update on priority development areas. And lastly, the Master Plan Implementation Committee will be having a public forum on the Littleton Common Reorganization Plan on Tuesday, July 17th.
Terrific. Thank you, Keith.
Fast forward.
All right. On to boards and departments. We are pleased to be joined tonight by our colleagues on the Finance Committee. We have fiscal year 2018 year-end transfers. Mr. Chairman, did you want to speak to that, or are you going to defer
Call
to?
yours to order.
I haven't taken the chair yet, but...
Oh, all right. Presumptive chairman.
We met at 7:05 in room 103B and voted to support this article. So the selectmen can vote to do so if they so choose.
Okay.
Thank you. And year-end transfers do require selectmen and FinCom
Right.
approval, and Bonnie had prepared these.
It's basically a zero sum, which is
Yeah.
transferred. But we did vote to support it.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And in particular, we're looking for, one of the items that I want to call out is $33,000 transfer for police dispatch. That allows us to take up an issue that's later on in the agenda, which maybe we could take, which we'll take at the board's pleasure.
They've already said yes, all we can do is lose the sale at this
Right.
point, Keith.
So I recommend that the board approve the motion as presented.
All right, thank you. And Bonnie's not here to join us tonight?
Bonnie's here.
Oh, she is, oh, there you are, all right.
It's been used since
Did they all get it right?
Yes, they did.
All right, thank you. Then I would either entertain questions from the board, comments, or a motion.
Questions? No?
You have a question, Joe? Madam Clerk?
Move that the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee vote pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 33B, to approve year-end transfers between various line items of the fiscal year 2018 budget, as recommended by the Director of Finance and Budget as follows. $33,000 for police dispatch, $5,000 for town meeting, and $25,000 for public buildings, for a total of $63,000, to be funded by $38,000 from unemployment insurance and $25,000 from fuel expense.
Second?
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
FinCom.
Thank you.
Yes, and we have our friends and colleagues from the Historical Commission with us tonight, and as well as the Community Preservation Committee, and this is to address issues relevant to the Baker Homestead, 12 Robinson Road, and specifically the historic preservation deed restriction. We are indeed moving on that rapidly, I would say, Keith? Huh?
Yeah, we have a draft form of a historic preservation deed restriction that town council has prepared, but even more importantly, the Historical Commission has commissioned an excellent study of what the historic resources are at the property, which can help guide the restriction. And it would be important to identify what are the architectural features, either interior or exterior, that should be incorporated in the deed restriction. Before we forget, and this was a late file thing I wanted to say, while we're at it, one of the things that we are proposing to do here is to acquire the property. And this happens to be the last meeting before the closing date of July 3rd. So I huddled with council yesterday, and we have a procedural motion that will also ask you to vote to approve the form of the deed and the acquisition. So we'll have the discussion about the deed restriction, and then we'll vote on the deed so that we can close on the property.
All right, is there a designated spokesperson from either the commission, or? Sure.
Hi, Andrew Watt. I'm the chair of the Littleton Historic Commission, and I'm speaking on behalf of the commission. Specifically, we are hoping the deed restriction will adhere to the National Historic Preservation Act Code of Federal Regulation, which is from the Secretary of the Interior, specific guidance on treatment of historically defined properties. And within those guidelines, there are different standards. So the long-term preservation of historic significant properties typically include both interior and external features, and these include options to rehabilitate, restore, or reconstruct. And preservation is considered the strictest standard, which at this time we do not recommend that strict standard. Instead, we are in favor of the standard of rehabilitation. which is defined as the process of returning a property to a state of utility through repair or slight alteration, which makes possible an efficient contemporary use while preserving those portions and features of the property which are significant to its historic, architectural, or cultural value. Such repairs and alterations should not damage or destroy materials, finishes, or features that are important in defining this building's historic character. According to the proposed use of this historic building, the federal standards state that many historic buildings can be adapted for a new use or updated for continued use without seriously impacting their historical character. Some properties are a little bit more challenging to convert without any major alterations. Our goal is to maintain the historic character. We are hoping to see this building possibly used for public future use rather than moving on to private ownership. The commission did hire a consultant to come in and evaluate the architectural and historical significance of the building and has identified specific features, both interior and exterior, that we are recommending be preserved and should be included in the deed restriction. I believe your packets tonight should have a copy of Jen Doherty's full report. It is quite extensive. We believe that the Kimball House is a highly significant example of a mid to late 18th century style architecture that is very typical of the farmhouses of this era, and that it may have been constructed even earlier, and that the building possesses integrity of materials and workmanship. That the main house, which is the two-story salt box with the 6/6 windows with preserved reveal, and that the building's main 5-bay facade with center entrance door.
Keith, excuse me, we don't have these photos because it's a wonderful report. Can we flip through some of those?
I can put them.
Well, going through
You
that.
wanna see them?
Yeah, might as well.
It's in our packets.
Yeah.
One of the other big features, which is quite rare, which is known as the Beverly Jog, which is a part that extends out beside the main structure to the full story height. There's also 4 fireplaces, 2 small brick ovens, and that it's a street facade looks very similar to its original mid to late 18th century construction. We think it's one of the oldest in Littleton. There is a beam in the attic, which, as you know, is carved to date 1673, though there is some question if that beam was salvaged from a building that no longer exists. We have done some research about the previous owners, which included a blacksmith, the Dodge family, including Hannah Dodge, who was the first superintendent of Littleton Schools.
And is with us tonight.
Yes, that's right. And also of note is John Sargent, who was Littleton's first police officer. And of course, the story goes that Amelia Earhart got pulled over for speeding and was brought there to have a chat with his wife. Specifically, moving on to the features that we, after a meeting and conversation after reviewing the report, recommend include that we put the deed restriction specifically to include that the building not be demolished, moved, removed, raised, and that it shall remain on the current site, and we hope that this land will not be subdivided. The exterior of the structure should maintain its physical appearance and composition as close to its original physical appearance and composition as reasonably possible, and that rehabilitation or restoration or other work done should use style and materials of the existing structure. The general outside street facade, and we are recommending the front 3 sides, should be preserved, including the shape, materials, and color of the house, though we are open to a palette of colors from this historical time frame. The scale, footprint, ridge lines, roof lines, And these are features that we have taken. We reviewed several historical deed restrictions from other towns. And so the language, which we'll send you this, but the language that we have chosen is very deliberate to match the deed restrictions we've read from other towns. We recommend that no major changes to the outside of the building be allowed without approval from the town, and that we would like also the permission to add a historic plaque to the front of the building. In terms of the other specific exterior features is the exterior facade of the house and barn, the wood clapboard siding with the exposures and current style, the 6x6 windows, so that's the mutton distribution in the windows. The Beverly Jog, which is a rare find on this property, which I think should be preserved, which is why the shape of the left side of the building is asked to be preserved. We think the main door shape on the front should be preserved, though the door and casings are probably replaced. The chimney needs extensive repair, but we hope the size and shape of its current format can be preserved. House color, again, white, though a palette from the 1870s I think would be appropriate. The barn, we have done some research. The color was previously red, so white or red, but again, we're open to palettes from the 1870s. There is a well outside we think should be preserved, and then a new roof should probably have a shingle material. Inside, there's the attic beam that says 1673. There's 2 brick ovens, wood paneling the kitchen that's thought to be of early date. The fireplaces we think should be preserved. There are wide pine floorboards, which are in the hall chamber. There's also some in the attic. There's some 18th and 19th century trim. The general floor plan, if possible. Composition of the beams. There's some wainscoting in a few areas. The rafters and joists and their construction methods should be saved if possible. We do not extend our preservation restriction request to the barn. There are a few things inside the barn, such as slate chalkboards and the hardware of the barn door. However, parts of the barn do need extensive restoration. And that concludes our recommendation.
Okay. Just for the record, we have, as part of our packet, both your report, thank you, excellent work, and folks who want to see some of the significance of what was just referenced there in more detail. We have it on our website. It's in our packet on the website. And we also have a proposed, or a draft, I should say, draft and proposed historic preservation agreement drafted by council, and I know you were listening closely, Tom, while that was being read, and there is exhibit space at the back of the document for a property description, statement of significance, as well as, where is it, restriction guidelines. So was there anything you heard offhand that was incompatible between, outside of the level of detail, I suppose?
No, I didn't. This is all in accordance with what the preservation restriction needs to do. My only comment is that we'll need to get this restriction approved by the Massachusetts Historical Commission. Since we used CPA funds to buy it, we're required to get their sign off. So my experience with them is the earlier we can get them a draft, the better we are. They're not always the most nimble operation. And, you know, so get them to approve it ahead of time before we send something in that's signed. But I don't hear anything.
Welcome input from other board members, but I'd suggest maybe as a next step is that Tom take Andrew's, what Andrew recited there, and try to incorporate that as part or amendment to their, to the deed restriction. Any questions or comments?
I have a couple of questions, but
Sure.
I was going to say,
Yes.
you're willing to share the draft with us. So what I read today is the work of the commission. It's
Yep.
not my work, it's our collective work. But if the draft was shared, we'd be happy to.
Yeah, it's public record now, it's on our record.
Great,
But this is literally the first time we've seen it too, so, or over the weekend, I guess, we got it. But I was just anticipating that what Tom has created actually accommodates what you suggested. I don't think it's gonna be a tough merge between the two, you know, so. And we're happy to share, and in fact, the two of you should probably converse as needed. Wouldn't you say, Keith?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay,
we'll
great.
work it out.
The only comment I'll make is with the hiring of the consultant, sounds like she made the recommendations which helped you guys to craft your opinions, so I appreciate you going through that extra
Yeah.
expense and exercise of doing that, because it makes it easier on all of us. She's, I'm assuming she's a professional in the field, so thank you.
Are we to take note that we should no longer be referring to this as the Baker House, but now one of the many Kimball houses? The Benjamin Kimball House, excuse me. Yeah. It'll always be the Furbeck House in my mind. Yeah.
You
Okay.
could call it the Baker House through the election anyway.
Showing your biases over there. Baker Polito House.
Just so happens.
Right, okay. Any other commission members or CPC members want to add to Andrew's presentation or offer anything forward? This is great. It's great to see how quickly it's coming together too, so that's good. Once we get the building secured under town ownership and secured for the ages through the deed restriction, then we can start talking about what to do with it. And I hope that invites a broad spectrum of options. We've had good presentation already from the trust that was established, but I think it's in everybody's interest for there to be a bunch of ideas kicked around. And I'll open to the public. Anyone else want to
If you
make
don't
any
mind,
comment?
a couple of questions. Two questions. One is about the deed restrictions associated with the roof. I want to make sure, given that, A, my understanding is that the roof probably needs work, and B, that's probably one of the more costly, single components. I want to make sure that we're not putting in language into the deed restriction that is more onerous than we need to maintain the historical significance of the building, while also keeping an eye on the fact that the town may be in a position to have to deal with this roof. So I don't know what those options are, but I would certainly like to make sure that you guys are thinking of both aspects of that and are giving us as many options as possible with your recommended language.
Yeah, I think we have Linda Stein on the Historic Commission. I think we have thought about that. I think the only thing we have in there about the roof is that it should be shingle, which is the current material. And that's
Okay.
all we said about the roof, knowing that it will need to be replaced.
Okay, and so that's going to leave some options open to us going forward. Okay.
And that the roof line should stay the same as much as possible as it currently is.
Sure. But we don't have to put a slate roof on it.
No. Slate would be very expensive. Would be nice, but
Right, sure.
Well, it actually doesn't have one now, so.
no.
The second question that I had was, if you could you detailed the number of the restrictions inside, could you just more holistically describe what can be modified in the interior? I mean, my understanding was always that our emphasis is on the exterior. You mentioned what I thought were a few minor things on the interior. Did I understand that
Yes.
reasonably accurately?
So the fireplaces, right, they're, one of the sort of historical characters of this house is that center fireplace that runs up. And we did discuss this as the commission, and I think Linda did a really great job of sort of summarizing all of our conversation into this sort of succinct two-page document. But by preserving the shape and ridge line and style of the three sides of the house, the front and the two sides, it would allow a possibility for a renovation in the
Okay.
back, right? So there is this feature known as the Beverly Jog, which is where the L in the back, which is a longitudinal addition, juts out further than the left corner post of the building. And so that should be preserved, but besides that, you could renovate, do some renovations in the back for, say, a more contemporary kitchen or some other features.
And just by way of an example, if we needed to, in order to make use of the property, open up a doorway or perhaps modify the layout of some of the rooms, that would be not inconsistent with
I would say that
this,
would not be.
barring impacts to, the beams, the,
Yes.
the fireplaces, et cetera.
What we learned from Jennifer's report is that there were already some departures from what is normally historically characteristic. Like, for example, that room in the front on the when you first walk in on the left-hand side, there should really be a wall there with a door. And somebody, maybe it was the Furbecks or previous, already removed that and kind of opened up that space.
Okay.
So while we'd love to see, and again, it's a timber frame house, so you're going to have some limitations on what you could do in the inside. We're not sort of restricting that the exact floor plan stay intact, though there's some great sort of character in the staircase, the chimney area, just the structure in the attic, etc., that really shouldn't be lost. So we've been careful to detail out.
Okay, but without necessarily tying our hands.
Well, that's
too
why
much.
I think
Okay.
it's a good opportunity. Tom knows he'll be acting in the town's interest to, by instinct, not overcommit us, and yet the Historic Commission has their role to, to cite things that need to be protected. So maybe the next time we see a draft that incorporates both input, then we'll,
Yes.
we'll feel more comfortable in that.
No, I think that sounds good.
Sorry.
Yeah, go right ahead.
I think there was one question which we might want to address, which is we can move forward with the deed restriction, but Jennifer does outline a few areas where some additional research could be done if we were interested. Dendritic analysis to determine the actual age of the structure. There is a room on the second floor where there is some small diagonally shaped walls that have been placed, and she does recommend, if possible, if we were to remove one of those walls, we could actually see if it has gun stock posts, which could potentially move the construction style to one of the earlier dates. Or the other thing is that there's sometimes seen decorated or painted posts, and this structure tends to have the posts covered. In the upstairs hallway, we would potentially have to remove some of the woodwork to see what is behind it. Most
Saying you want to do some digging around before we get the restriction in place, Andrew?
Well, I was just asking if that's something that, since we will be owners of this property, if this is something we want to do, or if we're just going to sort of, it's kind of like a home inspection, right? So the home inspector sort of goes through and kind of makes a visual assessment, and Jennifer did not do any more than a visual inspection. If the board chooses, we could go to a sort of a deeper level.
I think it's something we can certainly entertain, but we'd need to have probably a little more detail in terms of a proposal and where it fits into, take the humor out of it. I mean, are we at risk if we put a restriction on from doing those sorts of investigations? We got to be mindful of that.
Right.
And again, if it's funding, I don't know if, we obviously hit CPC pretty good this year for the historic chunk, but there's always next year's period. But anyway, I would definitely encourage you to put something together for us to discuss at a future date. But at this point in time, we're, and that can be as soon as you're able to act on it. But right now, I think we've got the, we've got the project of getting the draft language done, and as Keith pointed out earlier, we have a motion just to allow us to take the property. So, unless there's any other public input, I'll just say thank you for your work on this, and we'll look forward to revisiting with you once we have a common draft on the deed restriction, and then we can move on to that motion, unless there was any board input. I apologize, I am trying to move us along, but we were running a little late. Mr. Knox, you okay with that?
Yep, I just want to make sure what they talked about, they will have the opportunity to remove some boards
Yeah.
behind the historic value, that's it.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, well, we won't pull the trigger on anything until you've thought that one through. Okay. Madam Clerk?
All right, sure. Move that the Board of Selectmen vote as follows relative to the land located at 12 Robinson Road and described more particularly in Article 9 of the May 7th, 2018 Annual Town Meeting, to take said land by eminent domain under the authority of Mass General Laws, Chapter 79, with an accompanying award to the owner, Carl B. Furbeck, as personal representative of the estate of Bertrand S. Furbeck of 38 Dolan Drive, Groton, 01540, and not individually, of $250,000. The accompanying order of taking and waiver of appraisal, damages, and relocation benefits will be recorded by town council, and a notice of taking will be delivered to the owner within 30 days as required by Mass General Laws, Chapter 79, Section 3. Execution of said order of taking, waiver of appraisal, damages, and relocation benefits, and notice of taking shall be subject to town council's final review of title documents and any other documents or matters pertaining to the taking of the above described land.
Second with one amendment.
The amendment is
The zip code for Groton.
zip code for Groton.
It's wrong.
Oh,
Two numbers changed. 01450.
01450, okay.
Okay.
Now you caught that.
Joe,
With the noted change,
What is it?
it's 01450. Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion with the,
Remember, is that in November? That's fine.
all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? You guys have it. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you, Historical Commission and Community Preservation. Great work.
And Carolyn, I know I owe you something. I did get your email, but it was handwritten. I gotta get it into the computer.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for all the work, folks.
Economic Development Committee update. Folks, colleagues,
Good evening.
you gonna speak from there, or you're gonna come forward and join us?
Come up there if you like.
Good night, Tom.
Before you start, Neil, if you don't mind, we discovered, Keith and I did, or actually discovered in the context of the EDC, that nobody on the Economic Development Committee, we didn't get any letters asking us whether we wanted to serve again, because the Economic Development Committee was one of the committees of indefinite terms, which was not meant to be a life sentence. So we got Diane Dickerson researching what other committees were overlooked, so we're going to have to do a, we did already hit one of them. The MPIC was another similarly structured committee, but we'll be getting letters and so that'll allow for a healthy transfer of those that want to get out and those that want to get in.
Exit stage left.
Exactly. So, Chairman O'Leary, it's yours.
Thank you. So, Keith, I was wondering if you could pull up on the website
Video?
the new EDC video.
Yep.
So we have been working quite diligently for quite some time with a lot of involvement for a lot of people, doing business in Littleton video, trying to just show businesses that may be coming into town or thinking of coming to Littleton some of the aspects of what we have to offer. So with that, I'm just going to have Keith run that, and then it's only just over 3 minutes long.
25 seconds.
And I will, and then I'll continue after that, but I
Welcome
don't know if you've seen it
to Littleton,
before.
Massachusetts, a home to many thriving businesses and an attractive community for new businesses or for those looking to relocate or expand to suburban Middlesex County or central Massachusetts. Once the site of the Native American village of Neshoba, Littleton has been, since colonial times, the quintessential New England farming community, and it remarkably continues to be home to a number of active family-owned farms. But Littleton today offers other advantages to the technology and information-driven industries that have grown throughout the region. An educated and skilled workforce, and easy access to customers from all directions, sitting at the intersections of Interstate 495 and State Route 2, with routes 2A, 119, and 110 crossing the town as well. Littleton also hosts an MVDA station at its Foster Street, Taylor Street business corridor with shuttle access to the IBM campus on Littleton Common and other locations. Littleton is about a 45-minute commute from Boston and a half-hour drive north to New Hampshire. The farming community that once produced apples and produce, chickens and horses, turned a page in the 1970s with the development of the then Digital Equipment Corporation facility between Littleton Common and I-495. Around this same time period, the quiet little town began to be discovered as a destination for commuting homebuyers attracted to its accessibility, its affordability, and its many charms and amenities. Today, Littleton residents and workers enjoy access to numerous open space parcels and farm stands, Long Lake Beach and other streams and ponds, concerts and fairs at Fay Park and Littleton Common, the recently renovated Castle in the Trees playground, nearby Neshoba ski area, and Kimball Farms bordering Westford, and the many retail, restaurant, and entertainment conveniences to be found at the Point, Littleton's new and much acclaimed retail complex. A well-run town government and the excellent schools regularly earn recognition ranging from AAA bond rating to Bloomberg Businessweek's designation as the best place in Massachusetts to raise kids. Businesses thinking of Littleton should consider the advantages this little town offers. A municipally owned light department that sets the standards in Massachusetts for service and rates. Real estate pricing, rents, and taxation that is very competitive for the region. Just opened municipal facilities, including a new fire station and a new athletic field complex. A business-friendly town hall that promotes expedited permitting and innovative overlay district zoning. And a close working relationship with our local Littleton Business Association. IBM and PepsiCo, Potpourri and FIBA Technologies, Acton Toyota and Middlesex Corporation, and numerous small and startup businesses are happy to call Littleton home. Maybe you should too. We can promise you this much. You will be welcome.
So that I really give kudos to the people that do this for a living, because it's a lot of work. I mean, you really have to collect all the information, you have to drill down, you have to edit, you have to see what is relevant, what you're going to put in, what you're not going to put in. There was a lot of writes and rewrites, but this is the final product, and I want to thank a few people that put some effort in. The members of the Economic Development Committee, Ivan Pegachek, John Bergeron, Lisa Flanagan, Mr. Glavy, Caroline Armstrong, and Delisa Laterzo. Also want to thank Julie Cedar for the narrative, which she did pro bono, and she did that quite a few times. Also, Littleton Electric Light and Water Department, Dave Ketchen. I went out with him on numerous occasions with the drone. I want one, but we did, different sites, and we shot and reshoot and different angles and etc. And he was extremely helpful. And also for technical support from LCTV with Kirby Dolak and especially Mark Corey doing editing and kind of like putting it all together. I want to thank all those folks. And hopefully it draws some attention to businesses that may want to come and look at us, and paints a picture of our little town. So in your packets, next, unless you have any questions about that?
I'd say 2 points. Yeah, it is excellent. I think so. And, we got to find as many outlets for it as possible. So pushing it through social media and then periodically updating it, just to, if somebody goes bankrupt, we don't want to be highlighting them.
Yeah, that's true, and that's one of my points coming up in my other bullet points here. Anything else? Good. So also in your packets, so there's a few things that the Economic Development Committee would like to somewhat focus on in the near future. We would, number 2 is try to develop some type of system or program where, with help from the Littleton Business Association, where we can identify specific vacant properties that have been vacant for quite some period of time in town. Foster Street, Taylor Street locations, where we can match those facilities with new businesses and the owners that own them, because it's in a good interest for the owners to rent them, and if the owners and new business can work something out, it's good for everybody, it's good for the town, it's good for the tax base, etc. So, and also that is in conjunction with the master plan stated. So we're really trying to, develop some type of system where we can put those people together.
And put them together with state programs too.
Sure, for grants or
Or
funding,
maybe-
or even, some of the facilities have been sitting for a while, they need upgrades, they may need HVAC, who knows, but that would behoove the owners to move forward as well. Thirdly, the EDC would also like to create a forum maybe twice a year, where maybe the first one early this fall, where we can get business owners and leaders to meet local town officials like yourselves, Board of Health, the Planning Board, Economic Development, Fire, Police, where we can have a sit-down, have coffee and donuts or whatever the prospective businesses that are coming into town can sit down one-on-one and say, listen, I'm having a problem with this or I'm having a problem with that, where we could try to expedite and let that process flow. Streamlining permitting, but try to get a pro-business attitude in place amongst all the boards, because again, that is going to behoove us as well. And lastly, and Keith would probably be pertinent on this, is we want to keep the town website up to date. So we may need a person or persons where
I've identified the person.
Anthony, I'm sorry. Where we can, if we have updates on, updates on the like the sewer on the common, or parking issues, or whatever it may be, that once a month or once every couple of months, somebody can go in and update it and put an updated bullet point or a blurb or whatever that just keeps it coming. We just don't want it to have it be stale. And lastly, anything else that the Board of Selectmen wants to put on our plate, we're open to helping out as much as we can do. And that's pretty much all I have to say. So, any questions?
I had a say in this, so I already know the answer to my questions, but interested in getting any feedback on the direction that Neil has spoken to that the committee would like to go in terms of identifying specific properties, kind of boring down at a more micro level.
That's something we've been talking about at this level. I know that Economic Development's talking about it, I know the LBA is talking about it, and everyone around town's talking about it. So if those properties that are currently vacant, if we can find ways to attract folks to come to town and make them aware of these kinds of things. We've been talking about doing some sort of a partnership with realtors and finding ways, to your point, to get this out. Let's push this out through social media, through real estate offices, and so people. We've got a lot of great press, but if it's not timely, if someone's not looking to do something, and we get great press, and 3 months later they decide they need to do something, we have to try to be top of mind, so just find different ways to be top of mind. Love the fact that you guys are collaborating with LBA and with all the boards, and collaboration's important. I would go one step further and maybe even think about maybe collaborating with other communities, because although they may not end up landing here, the strength in numbers. If Westford's doing something pretty strong, but they don't necessarily have the facilities that meet the needs of somebody, we might get some spillover from them, and they might get some spillover from us. And I'm just using Westford as an example, but there's other communities as well that have similar types of boards.
Well, I agree, it's all about communication.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that he's enthusiastic, as he agreed earlier, Chuck did, to take my place on the EDC when we get around to making the reappointment.
Welcome aboard.
Not a life sentence, though. This is a one-year deal.
Could be 5 years for me in September, so.
Well, thank you. Thank you all.
All right.
And the other notion, I don't know, Keith, how difficult or, easy. What Neil was referring to, it could be like something as simple as a set of coffee and donuts in this room, but making sure that certain department heads, especially those in the permit process or in any regulatory form, are here. So if you're a businessman rather than a businesswoman, rather than going to 10 different offices, if you come, for a 2.5-hour period or whatever on a Tuesday morning in September. Yeah, office hours, walk in, everybody's going to be here, and you can talk to them in an informal setting. Can you see any real problems to getting something like that off the ground?
Not at all.
I think that is one of the areas, though, that we do always get pretty good marks from developers or
Yep.
from new businesses that are coming to town as far as the permitting process. So we typically get pretty good report cards back.
Well, if we do it and we find that it's not necessary, then,
No, I love the idea. So why not give another opportunity?
It's only maybe, twice a year.
Yeah, I like it.
I like the idea. Number one, I think what you put together here in our mail packet and in the video too is, I know the amount of time that goes into that, amount of hours spent, so I want to congratulate your committee on that. But I also liked how you included the agricultural community, because we have, in our zoning, we do have some possibilities where they could, on their own properties, if they need to keep their land to do something, and make people aware of that they could do something else and not just sell out. And as a member that...
We've met with them, too.
Yes, we met with the Ag Commission, yeah.
And as a member of the Littleton Business Association, I think it's good, too, that we're always looking to increase our membership, and by some of the things you mentioned there, that would probably get us in the door of some of the larger companies, too, to talk about open space that they have, business space that they have that's not being utilized.
Right, if they don't know about it, they're not coming. Or they may not come. Right.
Right. But I'm encouraged to have been with this group for a while, and we went through some growing pains. But if we're finally at a point where we can identify specific properties and feel confident that we can try and help them, noting we through various, and I know Neil, you and I think Anthony and Keith went to the forum at Worcester that the state had with different economic development agencies. I think everybody is at a certain level up to speed. Caroline, you were there too, were you?
Yep.
Yes, okay, all right, yeah. Caroline, Lisa, Delisa, everybody, they're all game to work. So we're gonna get out and start filling these buildings, fixing them up.
Continue the effort.
Yep.
All right,
Thanks,
thank
Neil.
you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jocelyn.
Good. Any other committee members have anything to add? And I'll get to you in a moment, but.
Going back to the agricultural, we have talked about changing overlay districts and things like that up on 119 to see if we can do some more like farm-to-table restaurants or something like that, or just find another way for weddings, for our farms to do something more than.
I love that, because there's communities that have lost farming completely because they wouldn't put in zoning like that, or make the moves that make that done, because you can preserve that space a lot of different ways, and what you're talking about is one excellent way.
And again, in that conversation, we've kind of deferred to the Ag Committee, or the Ag community at large, to help us understand, because there is some language in our town bylaw right now, but it's a question as to whether it's broad enough to allow some of these uses. Isn't that right, Will?
Yeah. I think one of our concerns was what's going to happen to Gary's property. He's getting older, and that would be a perfect location for a farm-to-table restaurant. You've got ample parking, it's right across the street from the farms, so.
But that's the sort of thing we can tackle if we're into the business of getting specific with properties and getting creative with ways we can help them. Carolyn?
Just a quick comment for the committee is, one thing, minutes have never been posted to the website for this committee. Maybe the town clerk has already spoken to you, but.
We've voted them all, I know that, I can attest to that. Why they have.
Some people like to look at those and I've never been able to find them, so it would be helpful.
They should be on the website.
Diane has them all. We voted the second batch just a couple of weeks ago, and we did another batch back in December.
I did them for the first 3 years, so I know they're there.
Maybe they're hidden.
Yeah, maybe if it's just a question, maybe Keith, even you can check with Diane to see, she does have them,
Oh,
correct?
yeah, no question.
And they have been voted.
Okay, look before him.
Okay. All right, anything further?
The one thing I wanted to add is, not to add another list or another item to your mandate, but we have a lot of businesses that are really engaged in the community, and using the EDC as a forum to recognize them and invite other businesses to be engaged. You know, Patriot Beverage and the First Robotics team are sort of, you know, inextricably linked in my mind, and I would like to make sure that the businesses are getting the credit that they're due for that engagement, both to make sure they get the credit, but also to encourage and invite other businesses to be involved. And I think you guys are in a perfect position to make sure to accentuate some of those, you know, sort of community involvement and engagement concerns, so that we're not always going to businesses asking for things. EDC is a perfect place where we can try and give back.
I work at Acton Toyota. We get like hundreds of requests a month for donate to this, that, and the other thing.
Right, exactly. So I'm not sure exactly what that form takes, and you know, I don't think it's necessarily the highest of the priorities, but keeping it in the back of your mind,
But every step toward building those partnerships helps make that happen too.
Yeah. It could be a business spotlight in the Independent. The Independent's always looking for something to go in there.
Right.
There's lots of room.
Yeah, that's my point, you know, and it could be something that's sponsored by the EDC.
Wasn't aware it was still being printed.
You get it online, so you everything electronic.
Next Friday, he's on Chairman Paul Glavy.
We haven't had a reporter here in decades.
Spotlight.
Maybe 1 in 2 weeks.
I don't need the spotlight. Yeah. All right, moving right along. Police chief, want to bail us out, Chief? Acting Chief Penard? Thank you. I guess you're going to take that as a yes on all your requests, all right? We're just going to work out the details.
Reach out to me, just let me know when the next meeting is.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
So,
Acting Chief Penard, does this something require, Keith, you need to walk us into this one, or?
Yeah, I can. That there are two pieces to pull together. First, most recently, at about an hour and 15 minutes ago, you approved some line item transfers, including $33,000 for to dispatch, and then back up to our last regular meeting when you received an update from the fire chief about implementing advanced life support services, ALS, in the fire department. One of the things that we identified in that update was that there is an impact on the police department dispatch as a result of our going into the ALS business in the fire department. Specifically, that we can no longer, the term is we can no longer forward the calls to our Pro EMS provider, that we have to stay with the call when it comes in for ambulance services. And so that has been raised with us during collective bargaining with the dispatch union, and while we agreed that we would not address it in the contract, we nevertheless said, we hear what you're saying, that there will be a workload impact on the dispatch. And so the presentation that we showed you 2 weeks ago showed how, with the revenue estimates and the costs providing the service, including to dispatchers, that we will at least break even, and we estimated, or we conservatively estimated what the revenues will be from ALS services. So in order to be able to go forward with the ALS implementation in the fire department, it really is necessary that we act to make sure that the needed staffing is available in police dispatch, so that we can ensure the success of the program. And in order to proceed with it, the board's policy requires that and we do a staffing vacancy review every time there's a vacancy exists, but where it results in an increase in the full-time equivalents, or it's not revenue neutral, it has to come back to the Board of Selectmen for a policy vote. So we're asking you for a policy vote to approve us bringing on board the 2 additional dispatchers to be able to fulfill our needs in implementing ALS.
Okay. Are folks clear on that? We have the topic before us.
And I'd say we just got support of the Finance Committee and they're supporting the $33,000 to fund it through the special town meeting.
Chase,
Can you talk me through that the staffing, so are we gonna go to 2 dispatchers essentially round the clock now?
I've worked
Let me
with, yeah,
understand.
if I could. So I've worked out a couple different schedules. If we implement this with 2 full-time positions, we can probably have them up and running with a seasoned dispatcher, probably within 3 to 5 weeks, where they're on their own to handle their own EMD calls.
That's predicated on bringing in someone with some dispatching experience.
And that's what we're hoping for.
Yep.
There are some regional dispatches, teams out there right now that some aren't very happy where they're at in working for a big regional dispatch. They've already reached out to us. They've already reached out to our dispatch supervisor because they heard we were going EMD. We did a couple different schedules and some looks at it. With 2, it'll give us basically 2-person coverage for the whole time. The problem's going to come down to overtime later on down the line, but we are in the process of getting like per diems and part-timers to fill those spots rather than have to force it out to overtime to kind of save us some money in the end. This is a temporary fix until we can go to town meeting in November. However, we did have some money come to us just last week that I signed us up for, and it's another $12,500 that'll be shifted into the 911 budget for something we're already doing, but we weren't taking advantage of by signing us up for this. And it's a cellular call base that we are on now. So the schedule will be a 2-person dispatch center. So
Okay.
when a medical emergency comes into dispatch, that dispatcher that answers that 911 call is there and stays with that call the entire time. If I have an officer on the road stopping a car, or we have an accident at the same exact time, unfortunately that dispatcher on the 911 call cannot handle the officers that are in trouble or the firefighters that go into a different call or a train accident like today, where we get flooded with calls.
Let's not have any more trainings. So, right now then, the long-term vision is 2 dispatchers, 24 hours.
24/7.
Okay.
This will give us.
And I understand that there's a degree of sort of uncertainty about when calls come in. Have you looked at the distribution of calls to justify, in particular, like the 3rd shift dispatcher? Do we really need round the clock, or, you know, would 2 out of 3 shifts a day make sense?
Great question, and we have looked at that. I did talk to the prior chief in regards to that, and our major time is 9 to 7.
Okay.
So a couple of the schedules we've shifted would be 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., or we have someone 6 p.m. to 2 p.m. We have a couple different schedules in place that, with these 2 dispatch positions, we'll be able to make it work.
Okay.
For the time being.
But there's really no way that you
I
can't
can't.
anticipate.
Well, I understand that you can't anticipate it, and multiple calls could come in at 3 a.m., but the likelihood of multiple calls coming in at 3 a.m., I would guess, is probably
correct.
lower, although
Could happen.
I rely on your expertise there. So you've looked at it, you're considering it, but the ultimate long-term plan is to go
2
24/7.
dispatches 24/7, absolutely.
Okay. Second question is, this is for essentially salary. Are there equipment and materials that we're also going to need to incorporate and fold into this when we now have 2 dispatchers sitting there? Do we need to duplicate a bunch of stuff?
The dispatch center that was set up originally when we built the station 9 years ago was set up to have 2 full dispatch centers.
Okay.
And if need be, we have a 3rd dispatch full center at the fire station that was just created. So as far as equipment and needs there, we'll be fine. We'll be fine there. Uniform, stuff like that, very minimal stuff.
Yeah.
But equipment needs and.
What I don't want is 4 months from now you say, oh, well, now we need, $50,000 more electrical equipment to make this work.
Everything's on board to be where we're at right now. They looked in the future when they built the station.
So the elephant in the room, what are we looking at? This is a temporary fix. What are we looking at?
I'm gonna let Bonnie talk about that.
So, because
study.
we know that we're going to use the ambulance receipts to fund this position, but because they're a receipts reserved for appropriation account, I need an appropriation to actually use it, which means I need to wait for town meeting.
We have to wait till we start getting them.
I can't access it until we get to town meeting. So doing this transfer effectively gives us the money to make it to town meeting, where we can fully appropriate the rest of the year's salary out of the ambulance receipts.
And going forward, the way that we would fund the ambulance is basically that the revenue that comes in 1 year is appropriated to pay for the next year. So we never would be spending prospective revenues, we would be spending revenues that we've received.
We've just got to get it up and off the ground.
That's right, so we just need the cash to cover during this interim period.
2 people is going to get us there, or are we looking at a third?
2 people for the time being, absolutely. I'm not going to say that I'm not going to be back. I mean, I'm not going to tell you no that I'm not going to be back here in 6 months to a year saying, okay, we've done it, we see what the problem is, we see where our problem
If
is.
you've ever had to make the 911 calls and then you get transferred to, regional things and you're on the line waiting, I mean, that goes away with this. Yeah, hey.
For the first time in a long time, this town will get quality EMD service at the touch of 911.
Yeah.
Right.
Start to finish. Okay? True believer.
And when you do come back, essentially asking for that third position to truly make it, 24 hours a day, come with some. I'd like to understand what the call volume looks like as a.
Well, that'll be what drives it and also what pays for it.
Exactly.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
2 I can wrap my head around pretty quickly. The third one is the one that I'll need to understand a little bit better.
And again, we may not need that third person at any point in time in the near future.
I mean, everything goes according to plan. We never need 2 people, right? That would be the best case.
Any further discussion on this topic before we have a motion?
I think we should make it a little more difficult.
Whatever you need me to do.
Madam Clerk.
Sure. Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the request under the staffing vacancy review policy to fill 2 full-time benefited positions of police dispatcher, communications officer, in recognition of the increased workload for the dispatchers at the Littleton Police Department in connection with the implementation of advanced life support ALS services by the Littleton Fire Department.
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Second topic, K-9.
Second verse, same as.
This is an authority to spend a gift of $19,000 from the Littleton Police K-9 Foundation. That should say in the motion, we'll add the word foundation.
Kind of a housekeeping, because we were presented with this earlier, but it was not handled administratively properly. Is that correct, Keith?
Well, you need to, we hadn't created a gift fund for this to go in, so you're actually creating a gift fund. And then we will spend it right away.
Immediately.
To augment the other funds that you've already.
Yes.
This is an anonymous contributor?
No, it was
or-
unsolicited, but it did come from the K-9 Foundation, which was established about the time that we
Yeah, if you remember, Officer Casey's been doing some fundraising
Yeah.
towards his new cruiser, and
Okay.
the fundraising, he's going to help us out with $19,000 towards his new
We also got funding through the Stanton Foundation
Stanton Foundation and also
in the town.
Okay. Any further explanation required, or otherwise questions from the board?
None here.
Okay. Motion?
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A, to receive an unsolicited gift of $19,000 from the Littleton Police K-9 to be deposited into a special gift fund account to be used without further appropriation by the police chief towards costs associated with the Littleton Police Department's K-9 program, including equipping a new F-150 K-9 vehicle.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Good, moving right along. We next have public input and members' updates. For the public who have questions on topics that are not otherwise covered in our agenda, now's the time. If anyone has a question, a comment, hearing none, great. I'll move along to members' updates and start at my left, Selectman Knox.
Just quickly, I want to congratulate the Park and Rec for once again having a very fine third Thursday. It's increasing in size. The amount of people that were there was growing also, and the number of vendors and food varieties is growing also. So it's the next 2 months coming up, it should be even better.
Terrific. Selectman DeCoste?
I just want to say thank you and congratulations to all the school department staff, teachers, administrators. Today is the last day of school, and just a heads up to everybody out there, the kids are out of school, so be on the lookout at crosswalks and around the common and whatnot, at the King Street, the basketball courts, so just thank you very much to the school department.
Okay, great. Selectman Gerby?
Sorry, just a Park and Rec's shout out to. So with the end of school, my kids are now going to Camp T this summer here, coming up shortly, and I want to recognize not just the administration of Parks and Rec, but also the staff working at Camp T. Those kids are, I mean, we just went to the orientation, and these kids are incredibly put together and articulate and responsible, and I was super impressed. And I think a lot of that starts at the top and the leadership that goes with it. But they're looking forward to a good summer at Camp T.
Selectman Nettleton?
Sure, so I have 4 things to mention tonight. I just wanted to mention, as everyone knows, Millie McGovern's home. She suffered there was an unfortunate fire at her home last Monday night, actually. And Erica Lazard, who's a high school student over at Lawrence Academy, started a GoFundMe. And it's raised over $26,000 so far to help Millie rebuild her home. So I just wanted to say thank you to the community and everybody who came out to support Millie, which naturally they would, because Millie's been so wonderful to us for so long. I also wanted to mention
the name. Do you know the specific name of the GoFundMe? I suppose you can find it just by
yeah,
Googling
it's
her
on
name.
Facebook. It's Help Millie Rebuild.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks. I also wanted to mention last Wednesday night there was a mental health forum at the fire department, which was put together by Jenna Bronson and Lori Gobiel. It was actually a really wonderful forum. There was about 30 members of the community who were there, and it consisted of healthcare providers from the Department of Mental Health, the National Alliance of Mental Illness, and Wayside Youth and Family Network. And it was great because they offered information and resources that are available right in here in our community that many people don't realize. And they also answered many questions that people had. I've asked that the information that was provided at that forum, the contact information, be put on the town's website for anyone that couldn't attend that forum, to give them an opportunity to access those resources if they need to. I also wanted to mention, building on Third Thursday, the Littleton Coalition Against Addiction now has a table at Third Thursday. They were there last Thursday, and I wanted to thank Nicole Lawrenson, Alexa Paravalotis, and Donna Kivlin for all their hard work with that organization. Residents are reaching out to them and seeking help and asking for assistance, which is really wonderful, and we hope that more people will come forward as we continue to this discussion about addiction and help break down that stigma. And finally, changing gears, I wanted to thank the supporters of the Alumni Field Project. I don't know if you have those slides, those pictures, Keith. We have some great photographs, before and after photographs, of our athletic fields, and it just really shows what a difference it has made by resting those fields. And we wouldn't have been able to rest those fields if it wasn't for the creation of the alumni facility. So I just wanted to mention that everybody's support for that project really did pay off, and it did make a difference, like we said it would. So thank you for everybody who supported the alumni project.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. I have 3 items, and they're all administrative in nature. One is actually Selectman Napoli's been requesting us, or reminding that we have unfinished business with the Planning Board requesting a joint meeting, specific, I guess, to topics relative to transportation and housing in your case, but we also have some of these common medical marijuana or the recreational medical marijuana issues and other follow-up master plan initiatives to go through. So Keith advises me that they have a number of interesting topics on their July 12th meeting, but no room for us, or it would have to be pretty late. So instead, we've in turn invited you folks to come to our July 23rd meeting, and that's been agreed upon. I don't know if that's been agreed upon in your stead or around you, Anna, or whether you...
Lauren is contacting her board to see if that Monday night works. So.
Trying to make it work.
All right, good. Thank you. So we want to see you as often as we can. What were those topics on the 12th? There are some...
Yeah, there's so many hearings on the Nordblum property.
Which is relevant to the train station.
Two of the senior housing, residential developments, subdivision on Foster, and something else.
Those are the four I've heard of so far.
It's a busy night. I'll be at Neil Young with my daughters, but it'll be a busy night for planning board that night.
Right. Before it gets lost in our memories, Chuck and I will be sitting down as the subcommittee to deal with policies and procedures, but I think we're awaiting two steps prior to that. One is for departments to complete their review of compliance.
They're working on them now. I know I worked on mine over the weekend.
Okay.
And by next week, for the agenda packets, Anthony will have pulled it all together.
Okay.
We're getting a lot of input in from the departments for the
Because I would suggest,
for a meeting on July 9th.
Yeah, we'll do this in 3 steps. Once we get that, and assume that that's updated at the statutory and department level, then we'll in turn incorporate board members' inputs, if you have other thoughts that you hadn't already had, and then Chuck and I will take a whack at putting together a draft. So I'd like to get that done in the month of July, so even if you don't hear it being stated, if anything comes up in your mind relative to the policies and procedures, send us an email or send it in through Keith and we'll incorporate it, or try to. Final thing too is we need to schedule department head reviews, and I would like to, before I know there was some talk about getting that in, and I assume we will get that formalized into our calendar. In the meantime, we need to do it. There are 3 that this board covers. That would be Keith, that would be the fire chief, and we had some discussion because we just had a change at the police department of having an exit interview with Chief King. I'm going to suggest that myself and Joe, as chair and vice chair, take Keith and do Keith's, and I would like to have 2 others do each of the other 2, and I'm open to whatever you'd like to do, which means, Joe, you may get double duty, if you don't mind.
That's fine.
So, anybody have a preference on Chief Wodzinski or Chief King? Or would you like me to make assignments?
I'm happy to have you make assignments.
Oh, okay. The power's getting to me.
For that reason alone, I'll take Wodzinski.
I was going to give him Wodzinski anyways. All right.
All right, in that case.
All right, how about,
whatever works out.
That's fine.
I'll do the exit with King.
All right, why don't we have one veteran, and either one of you folks want to join Joe on it?
You want to do a Chase?
Sure.
Okay, so Joe and Chase will do Matt King, and Cindy and Chuck will do Scott Wodzinski, and Joe and I will do Keith, and we'll try to do that again in the next couple of weeks.
Great.
Which might mean I'll have to hop on the Nantucket Ferry again, Keith, and come to visit you.
Well, you know the way now. Or my Nantucket ties.
Okay, moving right along, annual appointments. We have a bunch here, and again, it's not, as we discovered, as big as this list was, and we've addressed it once already, there still are some outliers. We've got to ferret through that. Some of these boards that somehow should be on this list, even if they have indeterminate terms. So there'll be a follow-up effort at this. But in the meantime, let's try to knock off as many of these as we can. And with that, I will defer to Keith to walk us through this process, if you're all right with that.
Some may be easy to do, and we'll take them alphabetically. The Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board of Trustees, this is a new committee. It is comprised of the town administrator, a member of the Board of Selectmen, member of the Housing Authority, Council on Aging, and 3 residents. When we advertised for 3 residents, we got 1 application from Angus Michaels, but we had 2 names put forward by the Housing Authority, both Bartlett Harvey and Millie McGovern. So one way we could address that would be to appoint one of them, either Bartlett or Millie, as the Housing Authority rep, and then appoint the other one as a resident rep. So they both indicated they'd like to serve. It gives them a way to do that. The board should also appoint one of its own to the committee. And the other thing that the board would be doing is to establish the terms. It's only up to 2 years. So we actually would have 6 people that you could appoint: myself, a selectman, Millie, Bartlett, and Angus, if you so chose. 3 of those should be for 2-year terms. 3 of them should be for 1-year terms.
Well, I certainly don't have any problem with taking one of the Housing Authority members as a Housing Authority rep and the other being a resident. They're both residents, and people aren't exactly beating the doors down. Do we have a board member who's interested specifically in this? Cindy, I know you've had a recent interest in some specific properties that may be candidates for this. Is that, should we take that as a...
Sure.
Board members have a problem if we nominate Cindy to take the selectman spot there?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. And how about with, as Keith suggested, I would say Bartlett, if you don't mind, just becomes of seniority. Millie's been on there a little bit longer than you. Is he still here? He just left. All right. Well, I would suggest maybe Millie get the Housing Authority seat and Bartlett get a citizen seat. Now, Dr. Michaels, I just noticed, is on here as well. And we've had some change in the availability of seats on the Council on Aging too, correct?
That's right. When at our last meeting, you interviewed all the applicants, and we found that we had 2 vacancies and 3 applicants. We've since actually had another vacancy on the Council on Aging, so you now have 3 applicants and 3 vacancies.
I personally would not have a problem appointing him to both if he's interested in both.
I think, based on his resume, we should probably put him on as many boards and commissions as...
well, plus this is sort of
out quick.
Right, yeah. Right.
He'd be excellent on the council.
No, yeah.
Excellent.
I think he'd be excellent on both.
And while we have already provided for a Council on Aging seat here, that's the sort of synergy we're trying to encourage. I don't know, we don't have to say no to anybody.
You actually then have 2 COA members on.
Yeah, 2 COA.
Donnelly,
Yeah.
2 COA, 2 Housing Authority.
Right, and it's not that we were trying to box anyone out, it's just those are the folks that are applying.
Right.
Would someone, and we'll still have, Keith, if all those votes are made as suggested, would still have 1 vacancy for a resident.
For a resident, yes.
So get out there and do some recruiting, folks. I'd look for, what's that?
Where the trust fund was proposed by the planning board, maybe somebody from the planning board might be interested in.
Anybody from planning? That's a good thought.
Anybody not overworked on the planning board?
Let's see, who can we say?
Well, usually they dump it on the new member, Anna.
It's just a thought, if you want to leave it open,
Why don't we leave it open, and if there is some interest there, or a recommendation of somebody, maybe that's the way to handle it.
Maybe you can bring it back to your board and say that, we discussed it and find it if, in fact,
Or
there is some
people see it
interest.
on TV tonight, that might spur somebody too.
Sounds good.
Okay. Would somebody like to take a stab at a blanket?
Slate?
Yeah, and by the way, Keith, are you assuming, are you going to designate to, Anthony's waiting with bated breath over there.
No, I'll take this one.
Take that one, okay. You're off the hook. Thanks.
It's off the hook.
I'll give it a shot. Move for the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint. Scroll.
Would you like to see the paper?
Nope. No? Do I need to be specific as to which Representative Millie McGovern as the Littleton Housing Authority representative, Bartlett Harvey as a resident, Maureen Donnelly as Council on Aging representative, Keith Bergman as the Town Administrator, Cynthia Napoli as member of the Board of Selectmen representative, and Angus Michaels as resident member. Let me finish, hold on.
Yep,
For-
that's 6.
Stagger 2 years and 1 year.
That's it.
Okay, and that's it?
Yeah,
With
and
one
For
vacancy.
the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board of Trustees, for a term expiring, they all gonna be the same?
No, 3 of them need to be for 2 years and 3 for 1 year.
Which I will make the motion that Keith will figure out who fits in where.
Okay, got it.
June 30th, 2019 through 21? Oh, no,
Through 19 and 20.
right?
Got it.
Or for an indefinite term? Like when you want to do it?
No,
next
it would
year,
have to be
3
definite
years.
terms.
Okay.
Okay,
Did you guys sort that out?
Yeah, we got it.
I got it.
All right. We have a second somewhere?
Second.
Okay. Motion's sort of been made and seconded.
Thanks, boss.
All those in favor signify by any discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Aye.
know.
Okay.
All right. Next is.
You got a paper cut trying to go through his pages.
Ready to go. You need to catch up? or-
Oh, we're good.
Okay. good.
Usually Keith does it up here, so I can just look up.
Agricultural Commission. Sorry to keep you up so late, Will. Keith, again, walk us through what our
Yeah, there are-
obligations and our vacancies are here.
There are 2 farmer positions, one with the, or both with 3-year term expirations, and there's 1 citizen at large member. And we have, I think, 2 incumbents applying. We've got Scott Matheson and Brad Mitchell.
One is a farmer and one is a
One is
citizen.
right, and then we have 2 other applicants.
Yeah.
J-
And Jerry Cavallo
Jerry
is
Cavallo and
a
Heidi
farmer.
Montanari.
You sent, I don't know if everyone got it, I got an email. Did you all get that email? Yeah. Owner of Johnny Putt Farm, registered business in Littleton. And the other person is Heidi Montanari, correct?
Right, and so you've got 2 farmers and 1 citizen at large to appoint.
Well, I thought we
3
had 2
farmers
and
and
2.
2 citizens at large that have applied.
Right.
A recommendation from the committee itself, don't we?
Was there a recommendation, Will? And
Recommendation was
Andrew?
The current, reseat the current members and appoint Jerry Cavallo as the additional farmer for the vacancy.
Okay. So the recommendation then would be Scott Matheson and Jerry Cavallo for the farmer spots, Brad Mitchell carrying on as a citizen spot.
Correct.
Correct. Were you aware of the other candidate application as well?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
If I may speak.
Yep.
On Jerry's case, I went to Johnny Putt's website, and it's interesting. Go to that website and learn where the name Johnny Putt came from.
Really?
Yeah. Supposedly, it's a gentleman who married someone back after the 1812 war. The husband didn't come back, so the lady married somebody else. He eventually came back.
Oh, boy.
And poor Johnny Putt got left out.
Oh,
And lived out in the woods in New Estate Road.
Really?
Yes. Take a look at the website.
Wow. I will. I heard of a story like that with a fellow from Ayr who was a POW in World War II, and his wife went out and married, and he returned after the war. But, well, I was remiss if I didn't give the opportunity, so I'll do it now. Any of the applicants, Mr. Cavallo, Mr. Matheson, Mr. Mitchell, or Ms. Montanari here and looking, yes. You're Heidi, I'm guessing?
Yeah.
Would you like to come forward and introduce yourself and speak to your interest?
I'm actually here to probably join the sustainability,
Okay.
which you're going to be getting to. I put down a couple that I was
Gotcha.
interested in.
Yep. Okay, so that makes it easy for us. So
Yeah.
you'd like to get involved, and good. Then Unless folks have any specific questions for Heidi, we can just take a motion on the, I'll entertain a slate motion if that's okay with the board, and then we can move on.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint Scott Matheson as a farmer, Jerry Cavallo as a farmer, and Brad Mitchell as a citizen at large to a term on the Agricultural Commission for a term expiring June 30th, 2000, help me, Keith?
2021.
2021.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded then. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Okay. All right, moving along, Keith, Clean Lakes Committee.
Next is Clean Lakes, and we have two, let's see, we have two citizen at large positions with term expirations of 2021. And we have 3 applicants.
They'll all be term ends 2018, right? Keith?
It expires 2018.
Yeah,
now,
yeah, what you.
But once we appoint
Yeah,
them, it expires.
Right,
yeah,
but there's a whole bunch of them there. But
Yeah, the way the composition works is that the Board of Selectmen appoints the citizen at large members.
Yes.
And the various associations identify their own.
Okay, but just for the public at large, so there's a Spectacle Pond member and alternate, Mill Pond member and alternate, Long Lake member and alternate, Lake Mattawanakee member and alternate, Littleton Light and Water Department, ex officio representation, and then 3 citizens. But those other folks, we all have to make sure they get sworn in too, the same as anyone else, right?
Yep.
So, all right. So for the 3 citizens, we have 3. We have, what did you say? 1.
You have 2 incumbents. You have
Cheryl James
and James
Jim
Barasano.
Barasano. And we've got 3 applicants, and I know Mr. Barasano reached out to a couple of us. He wasn't able to make it today. And Heidi, you're the 3rd on that list as well, right? Mrs. James? Yeah. Okay, would you like to, you're serving currently on the committee, correct?
Yes.
Okay, you want to tell us a little bit about what your activities are on there? We don't hear often from them, so I'm happy to listen to whatever you get to tell us.
Well, basically, I act as secretary, keeping up with the minutes, and until the Army Corps of Engineers comes and brings us the next package on Mill Pond, we haven't had all that much to do. I've been doing environmental work with the Coast Guard when I was a member of the Coast Guard Auxiliary. And
Yeah,
my
your husband's
husband and I
Jerry,
both-
right?
Huh?
Your husband's Jerry?
Jeff.
Jeff, okay.
And we did that for 32 years and kind of felt like we were a fish out of water when we retired. So
Right.
we got our feet wet all over again.
Okay.
And they were Clean Lakes, so.
All right, well, Heidi, you did indicate that the Sustainability Committee is your first priority, all right. Then so your feelings won't be hurt if we reappoint the incumbents? Okay, thank you.
2 openings then?
Yep, 2 openings.
Move the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint Cheryl James and James Barasano to the Clean Lakes Committee for a term expiring June 30th, 2021.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Again, I should have made this notice more often, but you still have to go get sworn in by the clerk, even though you're already on there, right? To continue for a new term. So thank you for your service.
Okay.
And, all right, moving right along.
Is it up to me to make the appointment, or does she call me?
Yeah, well, you should drop in, but whenever they're open, you can just go in and, you don't have to make it a specific appointment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Council on Aging. This was the one that was prickly a few weeks ago, and sounds like it's resolved itself, huh? Potentially, by resignations.
I believe so, although I'm looking at, I see.
It's 4 applications.
What did we thought?
Oh, we just had 1 resignation, so that's a 4th opening.
Yes.
Right.
It's 4, yeah, it's 4, not 3, yeah.
Yeah, because we had 3 that were
Three
up by
positions
term.
before, and now we have 4
And then we had one that resigned today, and that update is Janet Johnson, correct? Is that right? No, yeah. She resigned today?
Yes,
We do
that's
have
right.
that. Okay, and-
Yeah, so it's 4 positions and 4 applicants.
All right, and previously, we had interviewed Maureen Donnelly, Marjorie Payne, Mary Picard, who were all serving on there, as well as Dr. Michaels, right? And that was the conundrum. We had 3 good candidates for, at that time, well, 4 good candidates for 3 spots. We now have 4 good candidates for 4 spots, right?
Right.
All right. Any discussion while we're waiting for Chuck to put that blanket motion together?
No? Entertain a motion? Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint Maureen Donnelly, Marjorie Payne, and Mary Picard for terms expiring June 30th, 2021, and Angus Michaels for a term expiring 2020 for the Council on Aging.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Aye, the ayes have it. Terrific, thank you. And it's over to the Cultural Council. Now, I think the distinction here, Keith, you can only serve for what, a couple of terms, and then you have to get off?
For, my recollection is you can serve for 6 years, and then you have to be off for a year.
Yep, by state law, correct?
By state law.
Yeah.
So now we have positions to be filled. We have 4 positions with expiration, 2 terms expiring in
2 vacancies, right?
in 2019, 1 with 2020, and 1 in 2021. And you have 2 applicants for 4 positions.
I'll tell you what, Heidi, how would you like to walk out of here tonight with two, count them, 2 board? Council, the Cultural Council needs help here too. They're understaffed, and I'm sure we can accommodate you on the Sustainability Committee too. But you had put your name in for the Cultural Council as well, right?
Oh, I did.
Make sure she wants it.
Oh, yeah, all right, well, in any event, yeah, your name is on our list, and, yeah, you put down Agricultural Commission, Clean Lakes Committee, Cultural Council, and Sustainability Committee, if you're interested.
I would be interested in learning more about it, yeah.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, I'll read you what the statute says. Local councils consist of at least 5, but no more than 22 members. Members must remain, all this just speaks to their eligibility. Doesn't say what they do. Keith, could you maybe give a little explanation? There are some state funds that they administer, correct?
Yeah, they administer a state grant fund. There's a formulaic amount that is received by each community. We get under $10,000, I think, per year from the state. And there are grant applications that are submitted. They are reviewed annually, and the Cultural Council makes the decisions of who get the grant awards.
Usually funding some sort of event, a fair, or something, right, a concert or something like that.
Right, art shows.
It's musicians, it's artists,
yeah.
it's dancers, it's,
Not a heavy
Thespians.
workload.
Yeah, sure.
I can give you the term that expires the
It's a hard
soonest.
sell.
The 1-year term?
Yeah, all right. I'll give you the 1-year term.
One-year
How do you like
term,
that?
yeah.
If you don't like it, then...
In case there's buyer's remorse here.
Now, Keith, I only show that we have Heidi and Laura who have applied. Am I
That's right, that's all.
Okay.
There's 2.
So we'll give Laura the 2021, and then we'll have a vacancy still for
We'll still
2020.
have two vacancies.
Yeah.
Because we have 2 that have to come off. Right? Oh, but one's not this year. Got it right, yeah.
Right.
Never mind. Okay. Yeah. Oh, and Laura's already on there. Actually,
This will be your second term, Laura Yates.
so she gets reappointed. Heidi was on the one. We'll still have 2 vacancies.
Yeah, you have 4 vacancies and 2 applicants. Or
Okay.
4
Well,
positions.
find a
to
couple
be
of
filled.
friends and sign them up.
Like wine
Okay. All right, you got a motion?
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint Heidi Montanari to a term on the Cultural Council expiring June 30th, 2019, and Laura Yates to the Cultural Council for a term expiring June 30th, 2021.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Great. Keith, Historical Commission.
Yes, we have, call up that page here. We have the applicants, we have 3 applicants.
All
Still here.
incumbents. Yep, all here.
And all terms would be for 3 years.
Terrific. And for the record, they are Rachel Robinson, Andrew Simaco, and Andrew Watt. And you're all still interested, doing good deeds, as we know, exciting times.
Yep.
Yep, good. Anybody want to,
The Kimball House.
you know, here's your chance to make another speech.
I'm good.
All right. Yeah, with no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Move the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint Andrew Simaco, Andrew Watt, and Rachel Robinson, to a term on the Historical Commission for a term expiring June 30th, 2021. Second. Getting this thing down.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? You guys have it. You really, with that much in doubt that you waited around to see how it was going to go?
We didn't know if we had to.
You want to talk?
You never know, that's right.
We're just that entertaining, Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's us.
You guys are stuck with me for another 3 years.
Yeah, God bless you. Good work.
Thank you all.
Oh, I hate to interrupt. I'm also up for reappointment as constable. Do you guys mind if I
You
head out?
got, we know who you are.
Okay. Yeah, we got it. Have a good night. Thank you.
There's an opening in the permanent municipal building. It's Wednesdays, Andrew. You don't do anything on Wednesdays.
I was looking, he hasn't added a new board or commission in a couple of years.
Appreciate it, but
It's going to get up early and deliver the mail.
Remind them that they have to get re-sworn in as well.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
All right, Littleton Community Television Advisory Committee.
Start with the L's next time.
2 positions and 2 applicants, both the incumbents and the chair is
Millie
here
McGovern and Leslie
representing.
Glorioso.
Yep. And Seamless, 2 incumbents looking to serve again. Everybody's happy?
Everybody's happy. We love keeping them there. Millie is as you know, is a plank owner of this thing. She was on the first commission or advisory committee.
Pretty certain she was on the Housing Authority when they created that, too.
Yeah.
Been there ever since.
And Leslie does a great job. We'd love to keep her around.
Great. All right. Well,
We fooled them into staying with us.
Well done.
Alan likes them, we like them. Right, all right. How
Move that the
about
Board of Selectmen vote to appoint Mildred McGovern and Leslie Glorioso to the Littleton Community Television Advisory Committee to a term expiring on June 30th, 2021.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
Thank
and
you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Personnel Board, we actually have 2 appointments, though. Joe's our appointee to that board, right?
Yes, I am.
And you're still interested?
I'll still do it.
Okay, I'm glad.
You didn't answer the question.
But like you're always saying, Paul, take yes or an answer. Right?
Yeah. Here's a case where it's an important board, and I, you know, if there is interest, other board members, you know, may have interest in personnel-related issues. If Joe's willing to step
I'm fine.
aside, you're fine.
As long as he gets back on.
Bill? Oh, that's
Bill's
without
the
a doubt, yeah.
the workhorse.
Yeah,
He's
okay.
our HR professional that we have.
Yes, and, yeah, I didn't mean to overlook you, Bill.
okay,
In
Paul.
fact, we'll give you a chance to state your case, too. You're not in jeopardy, but this is a moment to,
I'll leave then.
no. Yeah, for those who don't know him, Bill Schmidt, occasionally speaker at town meeting, usually keeping our toes to the fire or pointing out where we're screwing something up, but now that we got him inside.
Well, it's been very helpful
Very
that
quiet.
we get Bill's wise counsel every other week instead of just once a year.
Right.
At our meeting, so.
Just don't put me in the same category as Jerry.
I'm not going to make any judgments there. I think all of our contributors at town meeting serve their purpose.
I just want to say, I love him on the board, because this is a learning experience for me, and have someone like Bill on there, my ears open this much, because I'm learning all the time.
So maybe the real question should be, we ask Bill about you.
He asked very pertinent questions.
Thanks.
All right, unless another board member strongly wants to make a case for this, then the suggestion on the table is to reappoint Joe Knox as a selectman representative and to appoint Bill Schmidt as a citizen at large.
I like it. Move the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint Bill Schmidt to a term on the Personnel Board for a term expiring June 30th, 2021.
Second.
We don't have to appoint you, right?
All those, motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
You should
The ayes have
probably
it.
designate Joe as well, since.
Move the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint Joseph Knox as the Board of Selectmen representative to the Personnel Board for a term expiring June 30th, 2019.
As the selectman representative. Yeah.
Yes, it did.
Oh, you
Second.
did? Okay.
That's 1 year, right?
1 year.
Sentence, I mean,
Yeah.
term.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, next one, Permanent Municipal Building Committee. I'll tell you, we got to think about this. That's an important committee, and there's a lot of vacancies all of a sudden. I knew Joe Calentra was getting off, but didn't realize we would have so many vacancies.
Yeah, right? And big vacancies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With and Mr. Pellegrino, we just appointed, I think, the other night to a different committee. Oh, there you go. Did we appoint you to the what was it, the transportation?
That's actually why I thought I was here, because I thought I had to get re-interviewed by the planning board for it, so I think I misread the email, and I kind of forgot that I applied.
Oh, yeah. Well, you do need to get by the planning board for that other position.
Yep.
But for this one, I mean, you still remain in the running for this, you're interested, and don't take this person, I'm just gonna suggest that we maybe wanna have these folks in to meet with them, see what's going on, see what their needs are, you know what I'm saying? I mean, what skill sets.
Right.
Well, I know they have tried to do some recruiting as well.
Yeah, but I wasn't aware we had this kind of a problem right now in terms of vacancies, because we're looking at 3, right?
That's it. I mean, Mr. Pellegrino's experience with just legal matters in general could be a useful skill set there.
Yeah.
You want in still?
Sure.
Okay.
Are you familiar?
He kind of happened into the.
Yeah, right.
I stumbled into it.
Are you familiar with the committee, what the committee does? That's a workhorse, not a show horse committee. You know, when there are projects going on, they really dig into, you know, to be available, to be on site walks with contractors and things like that.
Kind of the clerk of the works for any building projects that are going on in town.
It may cut into my day job, so that would be my only concern about that. I just don't want to commit to something that I may end up having to renege on, so I would just say that that may be an issue, getting time off from work to do that. I don't know if that'd be a problem, but.
Well, I'm going to go back and say, why don't we invite these folks in again for a meeting to discuss what's going on, and you maybe will want to come back. That would probably be a meeting on, what, the 23rd or something, Keith? We're pretty full on the 9th.
We're pretty full, we are very full on the 9th, so it would be the 23rd of July. So we can ask.
I'd like to, you know, it's been a while since we talked with them, debriefed after, you know, a couple of big projects, the fire station and, you know, and.
Of alumni.
Alumni, right.
I've been on the PMBC as a representative when I was on the school committee, and any sidewalks I did for any of the construction projects that were going on, or kind of on my own schedule. You know, if I did it at the end of the day, or, you know, if there was
Okay, all right, then,
there's
yeah.
something in one of the schools, I'd go there when I had to go see a teacher because one of my kids was acting up or something like that. That never happened.
Okay.
All right.
So, but we'll postpone it for now, and you can get a little more information about what they do.
Yeah, in fact, I don't know if they're meeting between now and then, but you might want to just check out their meeting schedule and pop in and.
First and third Wednesdays of the month.
First
So it
and
wouldn't be
third.
this Wednesday, it'd be next one.
Okay.
That's
It's just
4th
4th
of
of July, so it would actually be.
Yeah.
Yeah, the schedule for the 11th.
The schedule for the 11th, there you go. And the 12th, you can go to the planning board and get sworn in by them for the position on the transportation committee.
All right, so I should reach out to them for that.
Yeah, Maren too, or actually you can, yeah, Maren you should talk to.
Yeah, I'll make sure to get your contact information.
Okay.
Okay, and Keith, you'll invite in the building committee?
Sure will.
Okay, is the board okay with doing that way?
Yeah.
I think that works great.
All right, moving right along, Sustainability Committee, that's what we've been waiting for all night.
Ding, ding, ding.
All right, and, boy, there's no drama here, there's 4 vacancies and 1 candidate.
Okay.
Get some friends, telling you.
Yeah, yeah.
Be a good night out.
And Keith, is that exactly how we read it? There are actually the vacancies we have. This is one of those indefinite committees.
That's correct.
So
It's definitely,
yeah. All right.
definite terms, we have a lot of vacancies, and sometimes we adjust, for the sake of quorum, sometimes we adjust the membership of the committee
Right.
down to match the roster.
Yeah. Well, let's do what we can to increase it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, jump in?
Jump in.
Move the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint Heidi Montanari to a term on the Sustainability Committee for an indefinite term. It's a life sentence.
Unless you go into the witness protection program.
It's a sustainable term.
A second.
Who's the chair there now? Is it Katie Caruth?
It's
Aaron Healy.
Aaron? Okay.
Healy is the chair.
All right. So somebody, these all get passed along to the committees, Keith, right, the appointments, and hopefully somebody will be getting a hold of you, let you know when they meet.
She had already emailed me.
She did, okay,
Yeah,
good,
yeah.
that's fine. All right, did we just vote that one yet?
We haven't.
Oh, the motion has been made and seconded, all right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, the ayes have it.
You do have to go to the clerk and get sworn in, that's all.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Transportation advisor, I think we already did that one, didn't we?
No, you didn't, we
didn't
were
appoint
waiting
her.
for Chuck to come back before you
Ah.
identified who the selectman rep was going
Right.
to be. And this, it's a member and an alternate.
Right.
Has a schedule been established for meetings?
No, it's by the proposal was only like quarterly meetings, right, Keith, something like that? I remember working on it with,
We can certainly,
with Gary, yeah.
that sounds good to me. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'd be happy to throw my hat in the ring for the designee or the alternates,
And I'd be happy to do the other.
given
So,
Okay.
master plan
So who's the
implementation
member,
Right.
who's the alternate?
how about let Chase be the member and I'll be the alternate? I'm offloading everything, but I just took one on.
It's a successful meeting run, right? When you walk out and have nothing to do?
Okay. You just need to.
Nothing to do. Sort of like Anthony has nothing to do, right?
So the rest of them have been appointed, just these guys haven't?
They are appointed by those other groups,
Right.
and
All right, so we
I
just need
don't
to-
know that we've heard back from everyone.
But we have notified them to like,
Yes.
get on task?
Yep.
Right, okay.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint Chase Gerbig as the permanent member and Paul Glavy as the alternate member to a term on the Transportation Advisory Council for a term expiring June 30th, 2019.
Motion has been made.
Second.
Seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. I'll add one more. I'm just notifying you that my spot, I'm giving up my spot on the Economic Development Committee, as has been, I made the committee aware months ago, but now that Chuck's agreed to it, I would like the board, or I'd like to ask the board, somebody in the board to nominate Chuck to fill the vacant spot on the Economic Development Committee.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded that Chuck DeCoste serve as the selectman representative on the Economic Development Committee. Any further discussion? All those.
You don't give me a term?
Oh, no, it's indefinite, that's indefinite. Till you do something that we're real embarrassed about.
How much time you got?
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, thank you. You'll have fun with it. Go and kick some ass. And we are gonna have, what, there's probably not much left out there that got overlooked or missed.
There were a few that we didn't get applications for. We did not get any for Disabilities Commission.
Right.
Let's see, Shade Tree Committee. And,
Can we maybe have an update in our next packet or
Yeah,
whatever,
sure,
what's
we
out
can
there?
do that.
Well, I guess my question too, Keith, was, I know Diane's doing this exercise. Are there other committees that were not noticed?
Indefinites.
Right.
The indefinites, yeah, we just sent, right before the meeting, we sent you all the rosters of the indefinite committees that Diane had.
Okay, so that they go out, Mike? Thank you.
So you've got that, we haven't sent it out to the committee members themselves.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll start with you.
Okay.
There's constable appointments.
Oh, yeah.
and
Constables.
that's our-
Well, I know Andrew said he was interested, but if he's not so interested, he's not gonna stick around. I don't think we should appoint him.
Well, you want to leave that one hanging?
No.
These are 3-year terms, and you'd be reappointing the 4 individuals who were appointed 3 years ago.
Wait a
And
minute.
these are civil process constables that do private work, as compared to the term constable that we use to describe it when we send to the chief, the police chief or the deputy to post the warrant. Those aren't the same, so,
And
small C constables.
these are, Keith Layton, for the record, is a Air resident, but he grew up in Littleton. He's has a private detective agency, but it's not uncommon for us to appoint people that are not from town, right, Keith?
Typically someone.
Especially for something like this.
Yeah.
It's not a town board.
No.
Per se, it's.
Just the people that show up on your doorstep to hand
And
you
for
papers.
the non-board positions, we appoint a lot of people from town.
Yeah. Well, I like to point out-of-town people as constables because I figure they have a tougher time finding your house when they're out delivering papers.
Always thinking, Paul, always thinking.
2 steps
in your door open.
I figure that throws a little mind warp through the prospective thief. Like, wow, what's going on?
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 91A-B, to reappoint the following individuals as constables to the town of Littleton for a term expiring June 30, 2021. David J. Allen, Keith Layton, Ronald Raffi, and Andrew Samaco.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to appoint the individuals named as constables for the town of Littleton. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, good. That was a good exercise. We're on to goals, Keith. And you took a stab at...
On to goals, yeah, what I tried to do is to update the matrix. In the packet, I tried to update the matrix.
Yep.
To reflect the submissions that board members had made and the discussion at our initial meeting for goal setting on June 4th. I don't know that I caught everything. I did not review the video.
Right.
To make sure that I got it all, but.
That's fine. Given the lateness of the hour, I'm not sure how much I want to dive into the
We can
depths
certainly,
here.
we would have time to take up this on the 9th.
On the 9th, but I got a question for Chase. Did you get a chance to?
I did not, and I owe you guys an apology for
All right,
having
well,
not.
here, you get one more bite at the apple that you weren't even entitled to, and it's coming anyway. So let's reschedule this for the 9th, although if anybody's got any comments right now, as we see, Keith took a stab at updating based on our meeting. Chase is gonna watch that on video or whatever, send along your input.
Yeah, and actually.
And then we'll try to wrap that up on the 9th. Does that sound fine?
That sounds good.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Then real quick, next.
Oh, we're almost back on schedule. How did that happen?
Almost back on schedule.
Almost. Yeah.
We want to.
A good jockey is one who knows how to finish the race, not how you start. Yes, Pete.
So, from Secretariat, we go to, at the last meeting, you received a proposed amended policy on liquor licenses for compliance check violations, and wanted to adopt that policy as drafted by town council. Draft that tonight. At the next regular meeting on July 9th, you will have you will have 5 hearings that will take place on the compliance check violations. So we wanted to, at least for the sake of consistency, have the written guidance that town council had drafted that's consistent with the ABCC standards as your policy, as opposed to the one that's been existing, which does not comply. And so we've sent out the notices for the hearings. You'll be spending from 7:30 on at your next meeting on those hearings. So we've given 20 minutes apiece, and we'll see how that goes. But we'll have guidance on how to do the hearings from town council. I would say probably if you want to meet early, between 6 and 7:30, we could probably get all the other business that you have in front of us. That night, we had wanted to have an update from the sewer team. We had wanted to be able to review the town regulation and bylaw work, the information that's coming from the departments. And now you could, if you started at 6, you could do the rolls too.
Okay.
So.
All right. Is that 6 o'clock start working for folks?
Yeah, it's fine with me.
Okay.
It's better than staying here until 11. So.
Right.
Right.
All right. If we get, were you looking for a vote here then on this motion on the liquor license policy, which we've discussed?
Mr. Chair, before,
yes.
Since we have the language in front of us, I did want to raise the idea of a sunset on the violations. So right now, it's violations accumulate essentially indefinitely. Right. I guess, provided town council thinks it's appropriate legally, I would like to include language that says something along the lines of, as long as there have been no violations within 10 years, we let those ones fall off. Not exactly sure what the correct legal language there might be, but if there was one violation 10 years ago, I'm not sure that they should be shut down for a week.
Yeah, they went through steps of corrective action and whatnot.
Yeah, I would, Keith, there must be a...
Yeah, to add a sunset clause of 10 years.
Sure. You working on some language over there for that, are you?
Yeah.
He has a little sheet of paper like you, and just putting it on there.
Anyone have any problem with Chase's suggestion?
No.
That's a good idea.
That's a good idea.
Also, I don't want to have to keep track of them for indefinite.
As soon as you're ready, Keith, and we'll just take a motion on that. While he's doing, let's see. Oh, you come up to 12 more parking spaces, Keith. All right, we'll give you a chance to crow on that.
Well, we're still waiting to finalize the form of the license agreement with the landlord. So with the addition of a sunset clause, violations after 10 years. Okay.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to adopt proposed amendments to its policy on issuing liquor licenses by adding a section on compliance checks as drafted by Town Council and introduced at the Selectmen's meeting on June 11, 2018, with the addition of a sunset clause for violations after 10 years.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. All right, Keith.
Next, a quick update first, the commuter rail shuttle, some of the stats in our first week of operation. We are now in week 4, and we have the stats for the first 3 weeks. Weekly total 44 riders, week 1. Week 2, 60 riders. Week 3 was 79 riders. We had last week was a good week until Friday, and then because of, I think people took a long weekend off, or started the weekend early, that the ridership dropped off that day, but we reached we had 21 riders last Wednesday. That's been our highest one-day total. I think that we'll see a drop-off for the next couple of weeks, and then it'll pick up after, you know, you can just drive by the station during July or August, and there are not as many
You can get a
spaces
spot.
filled. Yeah, you can get a spot. So
I mean, not bad though. I mean, 30% increases week over week for the first 3 weeks.
Yeah, and the largest user has been IBM, that almost, I'd say almost all of those riders have been going to or from IBM, not as much activity going all the way to or from Westford. So we're happy about that. MART, the Montechusett Regional Transit Authority, is ready to put larger equipment on the route as soon as the ridership demands it, which I think is a great advantage of having it run by them instead of us, because if we run it with our own COA van, we're stuck. But they could bring in larger equipment as soon as we're ready. There's been a lot of outreach with IBM to get some more riders. I think an issue that we'll want to look at for the future is park and ride in general. That while I'm bringing you a specific, I'd like to get an authorizing vote tonight on a specific proposal that we're still, I'll say, we're still in negotiations with IBM's landlord, and we are still very close to finalizing the language. If we can I would like to get an authorizing vote tonight, just in the event that if we finalize the form of the agreement between now and July 9th.
Anyone have a problem with getting Keith's vote?
No, I think that seems
So that if town council signs off on the form, that we could go and do it. Otherwise, we'd have to delay. Yeah. So here's the.
Yep,
Yeah.
And no truth to the ugly
We're good,
rumor that
right?
that truck today was trying to get to the commuter van?
No, it was heading in the wrong direction.
Okay.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to authorize execution of a parking license agreement with the owner of 550 King Street.
As printed.
As printed for the town of Littleton to use up to 12 parking
that doesn't
spaces in the
sound shady.
southwesternmost
Yeah.
parking lot on said property exclusively as park and ride lots for parking the vehicles of town's Montechusett Regional Transit Authority riders and passengers, with the form of said license agreement to be subject to approval as to form by town council. Second.
Okay, motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Great work, Keith. All right, we have minutes from May 14th. It's nice we're into May, but
Yes.
we gotta start, it's coming soon, the June minutes?
Getting there.
Getting there,
We'll
all
have the
right.
June minutes by July.
Okay, what more can you have?
Famous last words, though.
Right, all right. Do we have a motion?
At least you're not a month behind.
Or do we have any corrections, by the way? No?
I thought they actually looked great.
Good.
Move to approve minutes from May 14, 2018.
A second.
Okay, motion's made and seconded to approve the minutes as presented from the Monday, May 14th meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The ayes have
think
it.
they all
All
did.
opposed?
Move to adjourn.
It's all signed.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All signed and sealed.
The ayes have it.
Thanks so much. Thank you all.
May 9th.